Hey guys, this is Chelsea Schaefer and this is The Score. This is the Team Roping Journal's venture into the world of podcasting. On this show, you'll be able to bring the Team Roping world's movers and shakers on the road or to the office with you. They'll be telling stories and talking through some of the issues facing this sport. As the editor of the Team Roping Journal, I'll be your host. Hey everyone, welcome to the Thursday, September 27th episode of The Score. This episode is with Buddy Hawkins, who made the NFR back in 2013 with Drew Horner, who won the BFI the next year in 2014, and who has been just battling back on the road ever since. Now Buddy is sitting 14th in the PRCA World Standings, heading into the rodeos last week of the season. So this is a very critical, interesting perspective that we got to have from Buddy kind of at crunch time. Buddy called us from the road, and we got to visit while he's kind of in between different spots, heading to Pasadena, heading all over the country, to make this last week happen. Buddy didn't start rodeoing until after the 4th of July this year. So he had gone home, was changing some priorities, was thinking he might never rodeo again, and then headed back out with a Resistol rookie, Bry Kreitz, and then paired back up with Lane Ivy and has had a bunch of different partners just this year. Him and Lane have won so much to go together in the last year. They finished just outside the top 15 in 2017, and they are trying like heck to get back into the top 15 this year. Lane's never made the finals, and that has been a big priority for Buddy, which, you'll hear that at the end of this interview, is how important it was for Buddy to get Lane into the finals and how hard he's working to make that happen. I thought that was really special. I love these partnerships that are really selfless, and that seems to be what these guys had to talk about. Buddy talks about in this interview, something to look forward to is how broke they were heading into Pendleton, and how little money they had going in, and how they were eating at the dollar menu. They had $66 left, and then they won second at Pendleton and made a big life change there. And so I hope you enjoy this episode. Don't forget to rate it on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Stitcher, so that other people can find it and we can get a better rating on iTunes. And it's really important. So make sure you do that. And I really appreciate your time and enjoy. Well, welcome to The Score. Have you listened to it lately?
Thank you. Yeah, I think I've listened to everything.
Good. So you know how this goes?
I have a general idea.
Good.
I figure you're going to get me some tricky questions. I can answer all of the other guys' questions now, but
good.
You're
You've been practicing.
No, I just figured you're going to sneak some in there on me.
Well, welcome to Bubble Week. This episode comes out on Thursday, which is like crunch, the ultimate crunch time. How are you feeling right now?
I feel great. I didn't. I guess starting any season of my career, I've never aimed for this position. We were talking about it the other day. There are some guys who end up in this spot a lot, and I guess I've been one of those guys. So we buddied with Tyler Wade and Tyler McKnight this fall. Lane and I have, and we were just kind of talking how we've basically always been in this position. I've been to Pendleton 4 times with a chance to make the national finals, and I've only made it once so far. I feel like I've got a good opportunity this year, but the year Drew and I made it, we won some on the grass at Pendleton, and then a couple years I didn't do any good, and then this year, we did well over there, and that's really what's given us a legitimate opportunity now. So I feel good, kind of like I shared with you. When I got to Pendleton, I was so broke that I felt like I was off the bubble as soon as I placed in the average over there. So I wasn't as worried about the standings as I was about getting caught up. So gave us a legitimate opportunity. And, I think at the same time that none of us have hopes or dreams of being in this position necessarily. There's a lot of guys that would like to be at this time of the year, guys that have a lot of accolades that aren't close enough really to make it. And then on the flip side of the same coin, I think we've all roped that steer on the dummy where, our life depended on it, or, this one's for $1 million, or this one's to make the nationals or to win the gold buckle. And so, while we don't necessarily hope to be on the bubble, worse positions to be in, and so I'm really happy. I've never had more confidence in this position, and I know sometimes confidence isn't really confidence, it's familiarity, but
well, let's break a few of those things down, though.
Yeah.
You said, okay, tell me about pulling into Pendleton. You said you were broke pulling into Pendleton. Can you say how broke?
Yeah. So as a disclaimer here, I have some standards that I've kind of kept myself to rodeoing, and obviously morality and all that I'm not willing to sacrifice, but financially I've really always kind of tried to rodeo on the money I had or I had earned somewhere. And had in 2018, due to some extenuating circumstances, when I got ready to leave for the summer, I really didn't have the finances that I hoped, and so I got a credit card for the first time to rodeo on, and I really felt good. I had a young rookie header. Brack Wrights went out and headed for me right off the bat when I decided I was going to go ahead and go this summer, and I just felt good about it, and I just didn't have the money, and so I got a credit card, and anyway, things went pretty good through July and August, and then for 3 weeks right there when Lane and I started, I guess it was really just 2 weeks. But Lane and I started the first week, we kind of did good. And for 2 weeks, we really didn't have any luck. And, getting to Pendleton, I was kind of just in one of those spots. I was, had caught up on some stuff. But, I had enough money left on my credit card to basically eat and get to Amarillo and pay my fees. I had enough cash to pay my fees at the jackpot at Pendleton, and I had $66 left in my checking account, and so we got over there, and at the jackpot at Pendleton, it was a good roping, and we just kind of had a chance the whole time. And anyway, when it was all said and done, the way it shook down, Clay Trine and I finished like 3/10 out of fourth, 2/10 out of fifth, and 1/10 out of the money. And so $0. Fifth paid $1,700 and sixth paid $0. And so I get over there to the rodeo at Pendleton. I'm broke. I've barely got enough to get through the week. And basically Pendleton's the only thing between me and poverty, which back to that, it's one of those deals. No one, people aren't going to let me starve out there on the road, but it's just one of those, like I kind of had an idea of where I wanted to be, and I wasn't in that position. So we run the first steer over there, and we had a strong steer. We were probably team 30 of 107 teams or something, and we go 6 flat and move into like 5th in the round. And so I'm like, well, I know at that point we're not going to place in the go round, but at least we're with the pace where I think we have a chance in the average. Well, anyway, the way it unfolds, just like some rodeos get, they basically won all the money at the beginning, and we enter specifically. Some guys do, some guys don't, pending what their preferences are. But we like to go early over there and have a first run on those steers. So anyway, we did hold on, and we placed in the first go round, and so that was kind of a breath of fresh air. We come back, have another run on our second one. Lane does a great job, and we go, I'm just thinking maybe 6.8 or 6.9 on our second one. Too slow for the round, but it puts us. I think we're in a tie for maybe 3rd, 4th, and 5th coming back to the short round. And then another strong steer. We really had 3 strong ones. Lane just, he rode his best horse and did a great job. And we have a lot of confidence. We joke about it all the time that we would go to Pendleton and ride our good horses if it didn't count, just because we're not scared of the grass, and we like doing cowboy stuff like that. I don't consider myself a cowboy. That's as cowboy as I get. So I know I'm not a real cowboy. I'm not Trevor Brazile, but I do really enjoy pasture opens in the grass and things like that. And my mare is so good there. I feel guilty if I ride her anywhere unofficial in that kind of a setup. But at that particular event, it's a great excuse to ride an NFR heel horse in a cowboy environment. So anyway, short round, Worley and Chad. Worley goes what I thought was too fast in the short round. And they go maybe they were 6th back, so they're 7th out in the short round, and they go 5 flat, which is just unbelievable. I've seen the 4-second runs there, and they're awesome. But come back in the short round, and which I joke with Worley a little bit about immaturity on taking fast heel shots and stuff. It's like he could. I don't know what he could have been. I'm just saying he could have been 7 seconds probably and got the lead. He goes 5 flat, which is an awesome run. And but like with the steer that we have, there's a slim chance that we're going to get that lead away from him. We got to be 5-1 on a strong steer to get the lead. And I never give up on it. I just, I know exactly what I need to do in those spots. I've got to get 2 feet. And so, in fact, after the rodeo, Junior texted me and congratulated me. And Junior Garrett, I said, I set the record. And, he texted me back. And we always joke about English. I always pester him on his English. And anyway, he texted me back and he said, what record did you set? And I said, the longest track in the PRCA. And I said, I'm sure in the history of PRCA, no one's ever tracked further. But that steer hadn't cleaned up really good on one of the runs. One of my other buddy teams, awards, had him earlier, and he'd kind of trotted out of there. And it just scared me a little bit on the grass because your rope can do a lot of funny stuff. And so I was planning on just kind of getting a good swing over him. I ended up getting 3 over him, but healed him fine, finished fine. And, almost wonder if the 5 flat didn't help us because everybody from there on had to be 5 to win the rodeo. And a whole bunch of guys that are clutch and rope great under pressure and all that. And so, it was every single guy could have got the lead, but no one did. And so basically, I ended up finishing exactly where I caught at. And so we won, 70 some hundred, which, like I said, official or unofficial, that was a big hit for me in the best week of my Northwest. I didn't do great at the pots. So that was awesome. And kind of got us back afloat. I said, Josh and I had been, my brother's been driving for me, and he's a great driver and really puts up with all my nonsense and the brotherly love. But we had eaten twice a day all week and been on the dollar menu. So it was exciting. We didn't go anywhere to celebrate except maybe a Pilot convenience store on the way back and got some pizza, but we had to get straight to Albuquerque.
Yeah. And so now you had said earlier something about you practiced on the dummy and it was the steer, to save your life.
Yeah.
Is that how Amarillo felt?
No, not at all. No. And I say that. So, I guess just looking at the way I look at the arena. So to say no isn't true. To say, I guess the answer to the question is yes, but it's no different than ever. I think about the arena a lot of times, particularly like the spots like Amarillo or Oklahoma City or the Thomas and Mack or facilities like that. I think about that as weird as it is. I think about it. It's emotional, but I leave the emotions outside the building. And I try to leave them outside my rig. As weird as that sounds, I guess, to really get into the science of the way I think about it, is I feel like every one of them is life and death. Not just the ones in the not just the ones under what people would say under pressure, so to speak. I don't distinguish between the under pressure or not under pressure. I feel like I'm under pressure every single time. And I go in. I think about it like I'm a gladiator in Rome, and I don't see how you can think otherwise. If you can, and that works as an advantage to you, good for you. But I think about it like it is life and death, and I will die in the arena. That wouldn't be as painful as missing in the arena. And that goes for practice too. I would like to think I'm somewhat enjoyable to be around, but there's another dynamic, like Lane and my relationship. We're very, we're not hurtful or hateful or any of that, but we're very open about our full partnership and all of that. So Amarillo, for example, yeah, it is. It's life and death in there, but it's not the Thomas and Mack. It's not about that. It's about, everything. My entire adult life has been spent about roping steers. If I wouldn't die for it, why am I living for it? Mm-hmm. So that's where I've invested. If I'm spending time like currency, I've spent most of my currency healing steers. So that's what I need to do. And but I don't drum it up more than that. I think if you told me, if I heal this next year, I make the national finals, I think I catch him 97% of the time. Or whatever, 86% of the time, whatever the percentages are. But that's what I think about every time. Aside from occasionally when I'm riding a young horse or something and we're only thinking about training. Aside from that, my good horses, we don't take days off, so to speak. every run year round matters to me.
And now, how did the rest of the weekend go? Tell me about the rest of the weekend.
You know what? I would say a little bit unlucky. We just man. So to break each run down, we went to Spring Hill, Louisiana, and we had a decent steer. He was strong for the set, and Lane got a great start and stuck it on him to be 3 seconds, and bobbled his dally, and I didn't get a very good or fast shot, and ended up getting a leg to be some kind of 4. And I didn't look at results, but I don't think it wasn't the opportunity like when he hit the barrier and had it on him as fast as anywhere we've been 3 before, and it was faster than anything we've ever done probably. And then we went to Texarkana. Just had an okay steer over there. They had caught him, but they were really long. They may have won 9th or 10th on him, and Lane got a good start and stuck. And that steer kind of hit funny. I heeled him good and finished. I dallied good, but it was just kind of an awkward finish. Like my rope didn't run, but we got hung up facing, and it's kind of one of those. I'm not one. I've flagged a lot. I'm not one to pick on judgment calls, and I thought he flagged the run perfectly, but I wouldn't have minded if he'd dropped it early. And we ended up not placing. I think he did exactly what he was supposed to do, but it wouldn't have bothered me if he left the head rope a little more loose, But we just got caught in the wall over there, A few of these buildings are a little narrow nowadays. The barriers are, a little bit longer than they were even when I started in the PRCA, mainly because all the headers head better, faster horses, and they reach further. So I think they have to set the barriers a little longer at times, or it ends up just being a knife fight. And most of them are a knife fight anyways. But so no luck over there. And really, like, Lane did a good job at both places. That's just kind of how it unfolded. And then we've already run both of them at Pasadena. Pasadena just started Friday night. And kind of stayed on our unlucky streak a little bit. And I'm not much on luck. I think luck and opportunity are created, but we were our first year fell down over there to win the first day money by a lot. We were going to be 4 flat or faster. 4-5 won the first round. Same thing. Lane dinged the barrier and got it on him right there. And he fell down, and I don't, you can blame it on the steer or turning off too fast. We go as fast as we can every place we go all year. So just unlucky. Our second steer ran, and we didn't get him caught either. So kind of just one thing led to another. Our roping has it's never felt better. Horses feel good. Our style's a little different. He rides a smaller head horse than some guys, and so we need to maintain the momentum every chance we get. He gets them on as short a rope basically as he can, and tries to keep the steers moving. If you've got a huge head horse, you can maybe make the runs a little bit different. But for us, that's what we know, and that's what I expect. And I try to get myself in a position to heel them as fast as I can, and that's really no different, I guess, than any other healer.
And now this time of year, a lot of guys are talking about rodeo count. That's what everybody's talking about right now. That is not something that is really crossing your mind, correct?
Yeah, I should be good on that. So I think when I left last year, Pendleton last year, and maybe I ran 3 steers that counted after Pendleton. This year when I left Pendleton, I was going to run 11. So we've ran 5 or 6, and I guess I need to look at that. I guess I've got 5. I've got 5 steers left. So kind of back to that, this summer, for the first time in my whole life, I had, there's 2 things more important to me than rodeo, basically, and that's my faith and my people. I'd say my family, but I don't think if family's blood, then I've got some people that are more important than rodeo. But so for the first time in my career, I 100% pulled up and didn't know if I was ever going to enter another event for a while this spring. And then, so when I came back, I was probably lower on count than about anyone. I think I was at 21, right there around the 4th of July and then started entering. So looking forward, I've counted about every rodeo that paid $1,500 all summer, and I still have 5 left. And my plan this weekend was to count Omaha, Kansas City, Apache, Oklahoma is kind of right there on the bubble of what most guys would count. I was going to count it and then finish at Stephenville. When we made the short round at Pendleton, I was able to draw out of St. George that same day, and that gave me one extra, so I counted New Braunfels, Texas. Typically, that's not one that I'm going to count day in and day out, but yeah. So looking at it, I'm going into the weekend with 5 official steers left to run, and probably, I'm going to say compared to where a guy would normally be, including myself, I probably have a little bit of an advantage there. Thing about it goes all the time. Sometimes you go to one rodeo and win one, and sometimes you go to 5 and don't win anything. But like I said, I'm all about doing my best, and that being good enough. I'm getting old enough now. I don't know if age is the thing or smarts or maybe it's the opposite of that. Maybe I'm just assuming I'm getting smarter, but I've got to the point now that my best is good enough. If it's good enough for God, it's good enough for me.
Absolutely. Now, what has changed about you and about your roping since the last time you made the finals? It's been a while.
Yeah,
what's been going on?
Everything. Literally everything has changed for the better. So I've roped good the whole time. I've came out of the winter, and when I say good, I know the difference in good and great, and I'm still not great, but I've roped good, since then. I roped, in 2013, when Drew and I made the national finals. I felt like I prepared according to what I understood the national finals to be like. And then I got out there and I won a go round and I placed along, maybe placed in 3 others, and we didn't place in the average. And I didn't do what I was capable of, but I did do my best. But I would think I was the only guy that was hooked onto his trailer when we were done running the 10th one. And I pulled out of there before they had ran barrels in the 10th round.
Really?
And I went to Williams, Arizona. It was 17 degrees. And I was practicing at 7 o'clock Monday morning in Kansas. And I practiced all through. I probably took Christmas Day off and practiced. And when I got to Odessa, I had learned so much, and that's the thing is, I think people say you can win or you can learn, and I think you can win and learn. And I won a little bit out there, but I wouldn't consider that winning. If you don't get out of there, in my mind, you need to get about the equivalent of 4 go rounds somehow, during the weekend. So at that time, that was probably 60,000, and now it's closer to 100. And I'm not saying that you failed if you didn't. The greatest teams in the history of the sport have had terrible national finals some years, and some teams that you're like, man, I don't know that those guys are the favorite. They'll be the ones that come out ahead at the end. But so the spot there, I just saw a lot of stuff I could have worked on. So when I got to Odessa that year, my roping had, 3 weeks or whatever. And I'd prepped super hard before the national finals, but 3 weeks after knowing a little bit more. In fact, it almost started before that, just to kind of background. So they had some rodeos at Kansas City the weekend before Odessa that year. And I roped I went up there with Cale Markham just 'cause I kind of wanted some rodeos. I hadn't been in nothing since the national finals. And I went up there and took a couple horses. We actually got to practice a time or two, but I think Cale and I that weekend, there were 4 rodeos, 4 one-day rodeos, and I think we went 4 flat, 4-4, 4-4, and 4 flat. I think we joke with some of the guys around because a lot of us have had a good weekend where we placed it at all 4 of them or all 3 of them now maybe, but it was kind of one of those we joke about having the record. And the next year, I think Zach Small and Tyler Worley, maybe they're good friends from around there, they went up there and maybe went 5 flat, 3-7, 4 flat, and 4-1 or something. And so they were barely like a tenth of a second longer on 4 than us. And so we joked with them. But anyway, then I went from there and I went to Odessa and I won the jackpot and I won the American qualifier and I won a hole in the Pro-Am and I won some money in the match roping, and then went on, a couple weeks later, I won Fort Worth. I placed at the Wildfire. I won second at the American qualifier, went to the American, was a tenth of a second from making it back to the Final Four for $1 million. First team to, ever catch one for $1 million. I didn't do it, but, and went on that winter. I come out of the winter, probably won 25,000 that winter, and come out of the winter in the top 5 going into the summer, and didn't rope amazing in the summer, won the Feist and then went out. And so, I made a lot of adjustments there. and the point I get to there, I guess, is I've basically come out of the winter several times doing good, and then the summer's kind of been a learning curve for me, and it wasn't really until last summer, 2017 is probably the first time I felt like I roped fairly good throughout, and I didn't win a ton of money in the winter with Lane last year. We didn't have the best horse situation, and I think we won $1,900 last winter, and that's the only winter I've ever had that was like that. And then went into the summer, and I did good at the Ram finals, but then we went into the summer and kind of caught fire about the fourth, and come out, and I was supposed to make them last year and didn't. If we catch one steer out of the last 3 weeks or whatever, I'm going to make the national finals, and we just we caught maybe one steer, but it wasn't the right catch. We got same like over there at Albuquerque, kind of a little bit of bad luck over there. We caught two, but we were just like 2/10 in both rounds, too long to win good checks, and 2/10 too long in the average to win a good check. And the way things unfolded, and I think everyone in the top 30 deserves to go to the national finals anyway. I mean, in my mind, I know we can't have a 30-teamer, but gosh, it takes so much work to get to 75 rodeos in the first place. It'd be nice if everybody that went to 75 got a bonus at the end just for showing up. But the big thing I would say, and I know this is a long answer to a short question, but the big thing I would say has changed about me is I have a lot. I've had a lot of knowledge about the sport, I guess, but I have finally in the last couple of years I've been able to put more into practice. And it wasn't that I was limited by opportunities. Like I said, I feel like we create opportunities, but the opportunity was there. I just didn't necessarily know the execution. And now I feel like I have been able to apply a lot of the knowledge that I'd acquired. I've got good horses, but I never had bad horses. I wouldn't say great. I may have a great horse right now. I'm not sure. I'm going to hold him to the same standard that I hold myself and everyone else to. He's got to prove it to me.
Yeah, and tell me about that horse. Do you still have your mare? You said.
Yeah. So Daisy's the only horse that's been with me the whole time, basically. Mm-hmm. She's so I got Daisy. I guess it would be the winter of 2005. So right there around probably December of 2005, or maybe it was January of 06, kind of right in there. And she came from a friend of mine, Jim Lawrence from Dewey, Oklahoma. And she is her legal name is Roses Might Do Too, and so I stuck Daisy on there. She is so I guess that's going to make her 14 this year. I rode her at the national finals. Rode her on 6 of the 10 there, and that's not the ideal situation for her. There's not a bad position to put her in. If the conditions are bad, she's usually the one for the job. If the conditions are great, she's probably the one for the job. It's kind of that middle zone. The national finals in particular, the steers are so big, run so hard, and the barrier is so short that the heel horses have to really, really run. And she's got the speed, but she's also really cowy, so she travels a little more level. The gelding that I've been riding, and so I would have bought this horse. In, I guess it would be December of 14. I believe he was an 8-year-old, so 12 now.
And
just
you call
goes
him
by X.
X, yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have papers. We really don't know much about that. I'm pretty sure if he did, there'd be a pony somewhere on there because he acts like, looks like that, but he doesn't know it. He's kind of like my goat, William. I haven't told a lot of people about my goat, but William's been raised with dogs, and so he acts like a dog, thinks he's a dog. He comes when you call him like a dog.
Does he travel with you?
Not much. He has some. I've had him around forever. I've had him for probably had him for 6 or 7 years. I rope him on a stake only, so I never rope him loose, so he's pretty easy to manage. If you're having a hard time catching up with him, you can feed him Fritos or Cheetos or Doritos, anything cheesy or N's and O's, and he's good to go. But anyway, back to X. He's a pony with some kind of a Belgian workhorse. I'll say a Spartan warrior's heart. He's got a big heart, and he's an all around horse. He's his own horse. At the same time that he's the meanest horse, he hasn't ever hurt another horse. He hasn't ever had to. Nothing ever doubts him. And I think that's a big thing with an animal. When it comes to competition, he has enough confidence as a horse to do his job well, but he's okay with coaching. He allows me to ride. My mare is kind of the type of horse, if anything goes wrong, it was my fault. And with that horse, he'll go ahead and take some responsibility for the team. And if I need to make a correction, he'll allow me to do that.
Don't forget, this podcast is supported by US Rider, the premier equestrian roadside assistance program in the industry. You've heard me talk about it every episode since the start, and now I want to give you a promo code so you all can subscribe and save money too. You get 14 months for the price of 12 with the promo code PC718. That is P as in Paul, C as in Cat, 718. You only get it if you're listening to The Score. This is a Score exclusive promo code. So head on over to usrider.org and subscribe. So what have you learned about rodeoing this year? I know it's been kind of a real different year for you.
Yeah, I think I remember years ago of all the conversations, my rookie year, 2012, I don't even think I entered the rodeo at Salt Lake City, but they still had Salt Lake City. They had the fairgrounds open, and maybe it was during Ogden. I don't remember, but I was roping with Casey Mahoney that year, and I stopped and I was talking to York Gill, and I'm not even sure who his partner was at the time, but I just remember this conversation distinctly. And York and I visited about what it took to make the national finals. And I'm trying to remember if he'd just made him that year before, possibly, and roped with Level and maybe 11, and I might be a year off one way or the other, but pretty close. Mm-hmm. And we were visiting, and I think York's a real intelligent guy, and he talked quite a bit about how he thought a guy probably doesn't need to go to 75 events or even 60 events, but if you went to 40 or 50 events, you're only going to do your winning during the year. There's probably only about 30 to 40 rodeos you're going to place at anyways. You're probably going to place it that many or less. And so if we were able to pick those places and go to the right events that fit our horses and our plan and our setup, that would be a big key. And so I remember that, and I agreed with him totally, because the amateur deal, that was the deal. And I'm not king of the amateurs, and I never really strategized to be. But I always got the points I needed to make the finals to do what I wanted to do. If I set out to win the amateur deal, I usually did. Same thing. The U.S. tour, I was always in the top of the tour when that's what I wanted to do. And so anyway, I agreed with him, and I've thought about it a lot over the years, but I never really put it into play. Well, then this summer, when I left for the summer. I didn't go to Cody or Greeley or Livingston or St. Paul or Prescott or Winter Rock or all the good rodeos over the 4th. And
did you get into San Juan?
I did. Yep.
You went to San Juan.
Yeah. And so kind of the way that deal went was, I had decided that I had more important stuff to do basically than rodeo. When all those books were open, I didn't enter anything. I didn't enter any rodeos at all. And then when I started back, Springdale, Arkansas actually didn't fill the perf, so I was able to re-enter with Peyton Emmett. And then I started right after the 4th of July with Bry. But the point I make there is I went to a lot of stuff that didn't pay as good, but I really didn't get that far behind on points. I was behind the whole time, and I still feel like I'm behind. Like I said, I didn't set out to be 15th going into the last week of the season. But the deal there, a lot of it is I felt like Lane and I had some unfinished business, and I wanted to do my part when the opportunity was there. I wanted to basically be readily available, and I love the idea of both of us having a chance to make the national finals at this time. We've in a way we've prepped for this. We would like to be in the top 10 instead of 15th. But what I learned was basically that theory, that theory functions. If you do good at the events that you go to, then it's going to be fine. So I didn't really do anything necessarily the 4th of July, if we're talking about the date of the 4th, but by the end of that weekend, while everybody else was cashing checks from St. Paul, I think I'd won 6,000 or 7,000. I'd won about 4,000 that week, and then I come back the next week and won maybe 6 or 7 the week after. And that was when I was kind of able to get back in the mix as far as the rodeos. So like I got to go to Casper, I got to go to Sheridan, Vernal, and so I was able to enter some of the good stuff. And so the first week and a half, 2 weeks went pretty good. Then it went slow for a little while, and then right there, kind of, I don't know if I was comfortable at San Juan. I'm not real sure where it was. My partner at that time was Matt Sherwood, and he didn't get in. And then Lane's partner at that time was Blaine Vick, and he didn't get in. So Lane and I had already, before we were a team, we were already going to rope at San Juan.
Yeah.
And so then right in there, you know how team roping goes. I know you've questioned some guys on the code of ethics. Well, however it goes, there's 2 sides to every story. But we ended up starting our partnership at Kennewick the week before San Juan. So we roped that week. We went Kennewick, Bremerton, San Juan. I feel like there was one other steer in there somewhere. I cannot remember if there was. Maybe there wasn't. Maybe we just went Kennewick, Bremerton, San Juan. And that started our first week. And, man, I got a leg over there at San Juan, kind of tough steer. We got a leg, ended up winning 9th or 10th anyways. And then won a good check at Bremerton. So kind of started off medium, and then it slowed down a little bit for a couple weeks.
Well, tell us about the kid that filled in before you started roping with Lane, Bry.
Yeah, Bry Kreitz. So Bry, I've known Bry since he was a tiny little kid roping goats in the goat pen, and that's funny how several of my relationships with partners have started in the goat pen. But yeah, so Bry has been dating Courtney Small. So if we go Flying Cow Genetics and Zach Small for a couple years now, I don't know exactly when, but so he's kind of stayed close to the Northeastern Oklahoma. He went to Northeastern Oklahoma University, I guess, in Miami, Oklahoma. And for years now, guys have went to school there, have helped me off and on. It's about 20 miles from my place in Columbus. And so, Bry mostly was a healer all that time. He's a 80 lead or maybe a 9 healer. And heals real good. And so, so sometimes I'd head for him at jackpot. Sometimes he'd head for me, kind of like a lot of healers, and a lot better than me. He's always roped the horns really good. And when Zach Small, when he was kind of letting up on his roping, he had a good yellow horse that he kind of hauled around as a second string. And Bry has I don't know that he owns the horse now, but he's been trying to own him for a little while. Mm-hmm. And that's really the big kicker. It's not, and I'm not saying you can give a good head horse to anyone and they can maintain them and head good. So I think where a lot of healers are at is they have we rope all the time, and whether headers think so or not, I think they agree, but roping the horns is not the hard part of heading. All the healers can rope the horns good. The hard part of heading is dinging the barrier and having a horse that's fast enough to catch up with the cow. Finishing super important, but I haven't seen a head horse yet that can score and really, really run and can't finish. So to me, it comes back to, if you can hit the barrier and your horse is running, you can head. And so Bry, he's kind of one of those guys. He thinks about exactly the same as me. And man, he couldn't have been a better option for me. When I called him, I on my radar, I had one guy in the universe that I thought was interested in doing what I wanted to do. Some other guys had asked me about roping, but they're wanting to go to these and not to those, or they want to do this and do that. I didn't want to pull out the driveway unless I thought I had a chance to make national finals. And that was my deal. Now, I would have, if Lane had needed me, like I said, I had pulled up on Lane, and that wasn't my plan. If Lane had needed me, I would have left with no chance to make the finals and went to every rodeo. But him and Blaine were cruising along over the 4th. They'd won Winter Rock. They'd placed a couple of their places. They were doing decent, which this was prior to the 4th. But the plan-making stage, I knew of one header in the universe that wasn't entered at the rodeos that I thought, man, this is a guy who thinks the same and is interested. He's a rookie. At that point, I think he was 5 or 6 out of the rookie race. So it's like, man, if we get rolling, you're going to have a chance at the rookie deal. And so we visited a little bit, and he kind of like me, the finances, were going to be a question for both of us. And so I just told him, think it over and let me know, what you want to do. And he, just like me, it didn't take him, I think, a few hours. And he called me back. He's like, man, I like that deal. And Bri had always been real good about, he would come up and practice with me, and, he would put some effort into it. And so we just got together and practiced some, and it felt good. And, we made plans, and, part of the practice, at a point there, he was kind of trying to step up his game. And I was like, man, you got plenty of game already. We don't need to go that fast. And it wasn't even that he was throwing and turning off too fast. It was more just like seeing him out there a long ways and making just amazing runs. And, a lot of rodeo isn't about the crowd pleasers. A lot of rodeo is doing your job. And so it went, literally we pulled out of the house, and I think the first, probably the most consistent heading I've ever had for the first week there, I think he turned 11 steers in a row, maybe broke the barrier a couple times, but no big deal. And the best I've ever had. And no one's maintaining that throughout the year, but just a really great start. And I was kind of inquisitive, not about Bri or his ability, but just the run. When we left home, I was kind of inquisitive, and it was one of those things. I talked to some pastor friends, and it was like, man, I was kind of back to Bible stories. I kind of was going to just test the fleece, so to speak, as I left, if things were going good. I've never been that guy. I've always been the guy that's all in. But at this point in my career and life, I felt like I needed to leave. And if things were going well, it's where I needed to be. And if they weren't going well, I could kind of bow out respectfully. So Brian and I planned on Cheyenne, and we stayed hooked through Cheyenne, and did decent through the first part of July. We were kind of catching up with some of the rookies and gaining on the top 15. And I think when we finished, I think I was 5,000 or 6,000 out of the top 15, about where I was at Pendleton, honestly. And so we had went the hardest part of the year, a young guy out there learning and going at the same time. And he worked hard and did a good job. And, he's got whatever future he chooses, like I said, I don't think everyone has the same opportunity, but I think everyone has an opportunity to do what they were put here to do. And so Bri is, there's no limit, I talked to him a couple weeks ago. He'd done good, the All-Star finals over there. I think they had him in Guthrie this year, and man, he maybe won the Open Roping and then placed in I think maybe the 14 and the 13 Healing. Had a good week, and has went on and done good at the circuit rodeos and such, and set himself up. I feel like he's probably pretty close. I don't know what the cutoff is for the buildings and stuff, but he's set himself up pretty well. He'll be around as long as he wants to be. I'll put it like that. I think it's up to each of us.
Yeah.
Any of us can be sitting on the couch during Houston next year, but he has the opportunity to do really well.
That's awesome. Now, next Monday morning, will next Monday morning look exactly the same for you, whether or not you, come Monday and we get the email that has the top 15 in it, whether or not you're 14th, 15th, 16th, or 17th, will there be anything different?
You know what? To say that the everything would be the same, no, but Noguera and I was talking about this winter, and I think we're good enough friends. I can kind of share. He wasn't at the highlight of his career. He may have been missing his mommy a little bit, and we were sitting around at Denver, and seems like we'd both missed a steer up the week before, and we were sitting around and we were visiting about life, but not just life. I think we think about life as in life ending at death, but if we want to get really deep, Chelsea, it's so much more when you have the faith like we share. And we were talking about how easy it is to see the negative in a situation, or to see our mistakes and carry our mistakes. We carry our mistakes so much further than we carry our victories oftentimes. And anyway, we just kind of started visiting, and I kind of broke it down. I'm a math guy. I talk numbers all the time. So, I told him, I said, man, I feel like, a lot of times we look at a mistake, and we can, if you heel a steer to win San Antonio, say that's 40 units of joy. And when you confirm that you've made the national finals rodeo again, that's 100 units of joy. But if you miss one to win San Antonio, that's like 400 in the negative. And if you miss one to make the national finals, like 1,000 in the negative. And if we can really get our perspective, have a clean perspective, our mothers are going to love us no matter what. We're good enough for God, no matter how many mistakes and how many steers we miss or how often we come up short morally or whatever. And so when we start looking at that, if our mother's love is 1,000,000 units of joy and salvation is 100 trillion units of joy, then what's the big deal if we lose 400, And so the deal to me, Chelsea, looking at Monday of next week, I have had so many great opportunities that I've taken advantage of and opportunities that I didn't. Regarding just 2018, I can say that everything that is extremely important is going to be the same. But making the national finals is really important. And, I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago and not put myself on any kind of a pedestal, but, a couple of weeks ago, if they would have said that, that, you can get your partner to the national finals, but you can't. Like, that's all you have to do right now is if you can skip the national finals and get your partner there, then it's good. Then I would have just drove home. That would have been fine. Because, for me, the partnership I have and the relationship I have with Lane, I've never had a better partner. I've been so blessed, and I think most guys are good. So I don't know that my guys are so much better, but I've been so blessed with great guys, great guys to be partners. And I would like to think that I'm in that category as well, but Lane's the type of guy, if I lost everything that I knew to myself, if I lost my ranch and my money, everything was gone and I needed a place to stay, Lane would have a place for me to stay. He would find a heel horse for me to ride. He would pay my fees and let me ride in his rig until I got back to rolling. And I don't know how many guys would do that, but I know one guy that would. And so at that point, I've been to the national finals and done fair. I got a buckle I could wear every day and I don't. But to Lane, it's a huge deal. And so, my biggest thing, and I'm not putting additional pressure on myself. I think that team roping is literally taking a piece of tight wound nylon and applying it to the back legs of a Mexican steer. I mean, we're talking about taking basically something that could have been turned into clothing and we're applying it to a farm animal. So let's not make it way, way more complicated than it is. But like I said, I feel the same about it right now. And I feel like Lane and I are going to have opportunity to run 10 steers out there. And that's where my heart's at. And I'm a hopeless optimist. I'll never let that go. So I always think better than the best case outcome. So like my sister asked percentages on making the national finals today. And I said, I don't know, 90 some. I don't know what, how do you, I guess there's probably an algorithm that calculates, but where I'm at, I'm more concerned about the heading standings, honestly. And if my partner's in there at next Monday, that's what it's all about to me. And, he's heading great. He's got a really, really neat horse. He's special. He's the only one that's like him. And he gets good starts on him. He reaches good on him. When we needed a catch over there at Pendleton and we had a runner, I knew the horse and my partner was going to give me the chance. And I knew my horse was going to give me an opportunity. And I've started to identify with doing good. I expect to do good. When I'm doing good, I'm in my comfort zone. And so back to that, I expect this to be a good week. We were kind of joking the other day, Tanner Braden and I, a little bit after we were splitting, we left splitting Amarillo, and we were kind of joking about, the Prairie Circuit battle's off again, because going into the Prairie Circuit finals this year, we're 1-2. Our Prairie Circuit ended a week ago, so all these rodeos count for next year. And so we were just joking that we're going in the Prairie Circuit 1-2. Well, guess what? Billy Jack gets the lead over there in Amarillo on Saturday night. So we're 1-2-3. I don't know how the weekend ended, but it was just kind of funny. We're 1-2-3. and typically that's how it is. It's usually, usually Billy Jack and I are battling it out, or Tanner and I, or Billy Jack and Tanner, or whoever. Andrew and Reagan Ward are always at the top of our circuit. So, these rodeos are circuit points too. And so, it's one of those, I love it when I get to go to an official rodeo that's, an official rodeo that counts for everything we set out to do.
Well, Buddy, I think that's a good place to stop. Thank you so much.
You bet. Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, I will have my fingers and toes crossed for you guys over the next couple days, so make the best of it and enjoy.
Well, thank you so much. We'll see you guys.
See ya. Bye-bye. Okay, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. That's it for our conversation with Buddy Hawkins. Buddy, thank you so much again. Have a good one, guys.